driving the edge of a knife. Never let you go, never let me down. Don't you give up, no, no, no.
Say investment.
So another round of applause for 11 investments, 23.6 billion.
Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady. All right, we're going to be moving on to our third cluster of 6. This particular cluster, Mr. President, is the Tourism, Property and Infrastructure cluster. 4 investments in total, 2.4 billion rands. And they are in, as I've mentioned, also hospitality, leisure, and property development. What's interesting is that a Kuwaiti international hotel and resort development in KwaZulu-Natal is involved here. An American hotel group opening 2 new properties is involved here. A black-owned tourism infrastructure business in Mpumalanga is here. And a local KZN property developer. So both local and international players. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be shy. Please come up if you belong to any of these businesses. Please come through, gentlemen. Don't be shy.
They are making their way.
There we go. Congratulations, gentlemen.
All right, we're now focusing on cluster 4, agro-processing, food and agriculture. 5 investments in total, valued at 7.3 billion. And they cut across food processing, beverage manufacturing, agricultural and farm inputs. And they're coming from European brewing and agro-processing groups, a Swiss fast-moving consumer goods company, to South African agro-processors operating across multiple provinces. If your name is here, we want to say thank you.
Please join us.
Please join us.
Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
So thank you, Nestle, PG Bison, SAB, Premier, and Gledho Sugar Company.
He's now here.
The Chatty Group as well.
Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause, yes, indeed. Thank you very much. As we move on to cluster 5, we are now in automotive and advanced manufacturing. 16 investments in total, 12.5 billion rand. If your name is there, please make your way to the stage, all the way to the stage. Here, we've got OEMs, component suppliers, tire manufacturers, transformer and energy equipment producers, Korean electronics, German switchgears, SA Biotech, UK healthcare manufacturers, all the way from KZN to Gauteng, drawing capital from 9 source countries. Welcome and a warm round of applause to them. All right, guys, make your way to the back as soon as you've shaken the president's hand. There we go. All right, there we go. Okay, guys, let's take our positions. Gonna tie your jacket, sir. Apparently, it makes your picture better. All the way to the back, gentlemen. If you are tall, if you are short, you know what you need to do.
I guess the simple rule applies when it's a group picture like this, the tallest at the back.
It's a nice big picture. Well done to the Automotive and Advanced Manufacturing Group. Congratulations, Nike. All the way down. Thank you so much.
Thank
all the way.
you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
We should say Siyabonga, Sheshe, and vielen Dank. Thank you very much. And the last in this cluster of investments, we are now looking at transport, logistics, and aerospace and defense. 10 investments at 11.6 billion rands committed. So if your name is on this list, we want to say thank you for putting down a commitment towards the refurbishment of rail, ports, oil and gas logistics, the building of aerospace, defense, and e-hailing, and really taking advantage of the special economic zones such as the Kucha IDC. Thank you for the work that you do in and around KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, and the Western Cape.
Congratulations, guys. Well done. Tallest at the back. Two handshakes. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, we earlier on, you might recall, the SASO CEO had stepped out, and he's the man with the biggest check today. So he must come back. Nah? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Simon Baloyi. Where are you, sir? From SASO, our biggest investment commitment at the 6th SA Investment Conference. Thank you, sir. $60 billion buys you a lot of time on the stage, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you, Mr. Baloyi. A round of
But
applause.
not just that. Thank you. I think you can, Mr. President. You can take your leave. At this juncture, we also want to look at the commitments that have come through, not just from the private sector pipeline or government, as we spoke about, but the organizations that represent sovereign funding, grant facilities, blended finance, and their programs help to de-risk the programs and also catalyze private sector investment. We seldom give credit to multilateral development banks, but initially they are willing to go where others fear to tread, to really do the due diligence, to offer technical project support, and really bring a project to life. And then when it's scaled up, it becomes more commercial. But it's those who really enter as first movers. Now, their commitments are being counted alongside the ones that we will announce today. And it's not direct gross capital formation, but it is really the backbone that has helped to support some of the investments we're talking about. So if you will join me in saying thank you very, very much to the African Development Bank for 20.5 billion rands committed to South Africa. That is the equivalent of 1.1 billion US dollars. The new development bank, sometimes colloquially referred to as the BRICS Bank, they are committing 34 billion in terms of the monies they've put together through different financial models, and that is the equivalent of 1.8 billion US dollars. We also have Afrexim Bank also growing its relationship with South Africa through the recent SA Afrexim Bank investment facility at $9.4 billion. That's the equivalent of 176 billion rands. Supporting a new generation of entrepreneurs and a merchant class, support for Black industrialists. These programs have come through the DTIC itself, the National Empowerment Fund, and the IDC, collectively 8.3 billion rands. And South Africa's partnerships at this multilateral level go beyond African financing, all the way through to the EU Global Gateway and Team Europe, their full commitment of 12.3 billion euros at 236 billion rands.
That's a big number indeed. So ladies and gentlemen, it's come to the point where we've had to tally up everything. The president did let the cat out the bag earlier on about his rounding up number. And Mr. President, I'm told you have every right to round up, because as the organizers were preparing for this conference, as late as this morning, the team at the DTIC was receiving commitments, investment commitments from many people who are present today. So the 889.8 billion rands, which comes to about 52 billion US dollars, is made up of 415 billion from the private sector, 475 from DFIs and government support. These are 81 confirmed projects, over 233 declared jobs across all 9 provinces, and coming from not just South Africa, but a total of 22 source markets across 5 continents.
Indeed, it's a combined ecosystem along with development finance partners, as we have said. And I guess this reiterates the theme of this year's forum, which is invest, partner, and prosper. All hands on deck. The government of South Africa, the multilaterals, the investors, coming to a total of 889.8 billion, what has been tabulated. We know about the commitments that have come through this morning that are yet to be calibrated. So I think it's fair to say that when the president rounds it up to $1 trillion, maybe more, it's somewhat accurate. We want to say thank you to every investor who has committed to South Africa today. And we want to reiterate that South Africa will honor its side of this compact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lerato. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our formal proceedings. But prior to us leaving, of course, those who welcomed us must say goodbye to us. So it gives me great pleasure to call on stage the Honorable Minister Park Stow. He's our Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. And he will deliver our votes of thanks and also call on the President. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much to our program directors. My colleagues were saying, Mr. President, that there was a math-lit problem when we were calculating the government investment. So Minister Mackenzie offered to do the math on behalf of government. Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, over the course of today's program, we have witnessed a convergence of ideas, an influx of capital, and commitment anchored in a shared belief in South Africa's potential and its role within the broader African and global economy. Allow me to begin by expressing our deepest appreciation to Your Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa for your steadfast leadership and for articulating a clear, consistent, and compelling vision of South Africa as a competitive and reliable destination for investment. We extend our sincere gratitude to all our distinguished speakers, panelists, and facilitators. Your contributions have not only enriched our discussions, but have also advanced practical pathways for collaboration, innovation, and growth. To our investors, both domestic and international, we thank you for your continued confidence in South Africa. Your engagement here and the commitments you have made reflect a shared understanding that South Africa remains a strategic partner for long-term sustainable investment. We also wish to recognize the vital contribution of development finance institutions, industry leaders, and strategic partners. Your role in mobilizing capital, mitigating risk, and enabling transformative projects is indispensable to achieving inclusive and sustainable development. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this conference has reaffirmed that investment is not an isolated transaction, but it is a partnership built on trust, policy certainty, and mutual accountability. The deliberations of today, from infrastructure and energy to innovation, critical minerals, and industrial development, have underscored both the scale of opportunity before us and the importance of coordinated action. As we conclude, we are reminded that the true value of this conference will be measured not by the strength of our discussions alone, but by the effectiveness of our implementation. The responsibility we share is clear, and that is to translate commitment into projects, to ensure timely execution, and to deliver tangible outcomes that advance growth, create employment, and improve livelihoods. Indeed, the people of South Africa are expectant on delivery on our parts. In closing, allow me to extend appreciation to all delegates for your participation, your insight, and indeed your partnership. Allow me to thank our valued sponsors for their commitment and support in walking this journey with us as partners, and without whom today would not have been possible. Let me quickly run through the names of the sponsors: Afrexim Bank, Anglo American, African Rainbow Minerals, Coca-Cola, DBSA, IDC, DP World, Eskom, Google, MTN, Naspers, NEF, Transnet, South 32, Uber, and Vodacom. To my colleagues, a special thanks to the Interministerial Committee. You are an amazing tribe of our president. Your support in keeping South Africa open for business is appreciated. We have been on this journey and we are turning the corner. You assisted us to moderate and to provide strategic insight during plenary, commissions, and TED Talks. Let us continue to invest, partner, and prosper. We thank the organizers and support teams whose dedication has ensured the success of this conference. We wish all our international guests a safe and pleasant journey, and we look forward to welcoming you back to South Africa in the near future. Come and invest, partner, and prosper with us. Thank you very much. And at this point, if I may once again invite the President for closing remarks to the South African Investment Conference. Mr. President.
Esteemed investors, business leaders, and partners, this conference has demonstrated that our economy is entering a new phase of growth. Having witnessed and heard the announcement of commitments of investments that will be made in our country, I can confidently say there is a strong case for investment in South Africa today. Now, earlier in the day, just during a moment of interregnum, I happened to watch a TV screen and I had a TV reporter say, "Oh, this investment would have happened anyway." And therefore, the government is just on a PR exercise, and the companies are getting to the stage because they love publicity. There can be nothing closer to the truth about that. The investments that have been made and announced here have been made for a number of reasons. In part, yes, some of them would have happened, but many of them have been the work that has been done by a number of people. Government, and including the business community, has been doing a great deal of work to mobilize the investments that have been announced here. I can start off with Sasol, for instance, which is our homegrown company. The CEO was telling me that, "President, if we had not had some of the reforms and some of the legislative processes that will enable this 60 billion rand investment," and he told me himself during the tea break, "we would not have made it." We've made this investment. In fact, last night when we were having dinner with those who are investing more than 10 billion, he said, "We're making this investment because of what government has put into effect." Now, the reforms that we have been implementing have enticed many companies that are here today. They have encouraged many companies to want to come and invest. When a country is uninvestable, investors stay away. That's the law of economics. And when a country becomes more attractive and starts blooming like a flower, it attracts the bees that come. And we've seen it happening and unfolding many. Play golf in South Africa. We've got the best of this, the best of that. And by the way, when we went to the White House, we gave President Trump a book on the golf courses of our country. Well, that didn't seem to work very much. Oh, that was also an attempt to showcase our country. And I guess Gayton McKenzie was able to attract those live golf people. Now, what did that result in? And he dragged me and said, "You must come to the final day, Mr. President, and I went. And the story that I heard from the organizers there, they said, this has been the best. And we now hear from those who count numbers that the amount of money it would have generated for the country was 1.2 billion in just 4 days. So now, frankly, this talk that these would have happened anyway, and I know that we always criticize government. I know that nothing good ever comes out of government. But on this score, I would say that those critics are wrong. Ministers of my government do a lot of campaigning and mobilization of investment, right from the deputy president, every minister, every deputy minister, and every premier. The premier of Limpopo is sitting here, Dr. Ramatuba, held her own investment conference and mobilized more than 70 billion. And I know the premier who I've not seen the others, of Mpumalanga, is also going to hold his own investment conference. And so our premiers also are mobilizing investments. And let it be said that many of those investments would not just happen because we help to de-risk the country, because when investors come here, they often meet us and say, we want to invest, but can you tell us about this, about this, about this, about crime, about what you're going to do, about water and all that. And all the measures that we are taking are aimed at making South Africa more and more investable so that we can address the three challenges that we face: unemployment, inequality, and poverty. Now, through the structural reform agenda that we have brought about, we have engendered a new era of hope and promise for South Africa and positioned our economy as one of the leading destinations for investment in emerging markets. Now, of course, we want foreign direct investment, which is usually the measure that people use. We want it to increase. And having a conference like this, which is being beamed internationally, positions South Africa as an investable country. It has even positioned South Africa as a country where the top players of golf in the world will come to South Africa and feel confident that they can come despite what others can say about genocide, which does not exist in South Africa, and all that. So that is a vote of confidence. The pledges made today have highlighted many of our unique advantages: a sophisticated financial sector, deep capital markets, performing on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, unparalleled wind and solar energy resources. We heard what Minister Ramokgopa said earlier, cutting-edge digital infrastructure, and above all, a young and growing population that is hungry for education, that is getting skilled by the day, in spite of their parents having been held back from a skills acquisition process by apartheid. But more importantly, South Africa is a constitutional democracy whose supreme law is the Constitution. This is the home of the rule of law, a rule of law that is central to South Africa's constitutional democracy. And here we don't violate what the law says. It underpins legal certainty, the rights of people and companies are protected, and it also makes sure that there's accountable governance. And also is essential for social justice and economic development. Now, the cumulative value of the pledges that have been made at this conference are the highest we have ever achieved since the first South African investment conference. It is the highest. And that in itself should say something that is positive to all of you and to government and to all the stakeholders in our country, that there is something good that is cooking in South Africa. Progress is being made. Much of this is domestic capital, as we had, 3/4 of it, 75%, demonstrating the strong and growing confidence of South African investors in our own economy. Now, when the country doesn't work, there is often an investment strike. Companies hoard their cash, they hold back. But when the country is seen to be functioning, when the country has embarked on a reform process like we have, companies begin to open their purses and say, yes, we can see growth, we can see that there is going to be increased economic activity in our country, and all other indices will stack up. Investors from offshore-based companies have also increased phenomenally, adding to our foreign direct investment, FDI flows. We've also seen significant participation from development funding of finance institutions, both independent institutions and also government-linked institutions. Now, these investments span across all of our 9 provinces, and I want to restate them for good effect, because I'd like our people to hear how some of those investments are going to be planted in their own provinces and how many of our people in those provinces could benefit. In KwaZulu-Natal, Toyota will be investing 10.4 billion, as we had, in preparing for energy transition in the automotive sector. Now, Toyota is one of those companies that has made South Africa its home. It operates well, even in times of challenges, like when we had the floods some few years ago in KZN, and it wiped out quite a lot of their fixed infrastructure. They remained committed. And I know they held a meeting in Japan and said, much of our company's infrastructure has been damaged, we will repair and we will continue being in South Africa. That is commitment. And we are grateful to Toyota for continuing to stay in South Africa. And thank you very much to the officials who are here. Now, in Mpumalanga and the Free State, Sasol has committed 60 billion. And this is not just 60 billion on paper. It is to upgrade their various workings, their mines and their oil systems and everything else, gas and what have you. And they are now also going to deploy the latest technologies that are going to catapult their growth to a higher level. And I was asking the CEO, I asked him, what's happening to your share price? He says the share price has gone up. And when he started, it was 50 Rand. Now it's 235 Rand. Fantastic. So it shows that this is indeed the home of Sasol. And they're beginning to export aviation fuel to various countries in Europe. In Limpopo, Valterra Platinum, which used to be an Anglo-American platinum company, is investing in new mining shafts, a smelter and other operations. When other smelters are closing, they are investing and providing key inputs for the products of the future in Limpopo, reviving mining and demonstrating that mining is a sunrise industry. And in the Northern Cape, the home of radiation and the sun, as well as in Hillside Smelter in KwaZulu-Natal, South 32 is investing money, 3.9 billion. I round it off to 4 billion. So by rounding it off, I mean they must add. In rail infrastructure upgrades at their manganese mines. And this is the area that needs rail corridors, rail infrastructure. South 32 is committing. In Gauteng and the Western Cape, Acton, a black-owned electrotechnical manufacturing company, is investing 250 million in equipment to support grid expansion, including transformers that we sorely need in our country, Some of them get damaged either in rural areas or in the townships, and other equipment and batteries for energy storage. Now, this is futuristic and this is great. And in the Eastern Cape and Western Cape, Teleperformance is investing 145 million in global business services and investment that will generate 2,600 jobs. And in a country with such a high burden of unemployment, the 2,600 adding up to the 230,000 that the investments that amount to almost 900 billion are going to generate. And in Northwest Mulilo, investing 14 billion, 0.8, that's 15 billion, my brother. That's 15 billion. In total of 4 renewable energy projects in the province as well as in the Free State and Western Cape. Now, as government, we are more than coming to the party. As you saw, the figure that we are going to put on the table, and we're not coming to the table empty-handed. We as well are committing quite a lot of money. As Lerata was saying in the morning, as she was talking about soccer or basketball or whatever, we are also putting skin in the game and matching our commitment to sustained reform with capital, with the largest infrastructure investment intervention in our country's history. We are going big guns and we're putting in big ticket investments in our country to take our country forward. We may not see the results right now, but in a few months we are going to be seeing cranes. We're going to be seeing yellow equipment all over the country, generating more employment, more opportunities, and improving the infrastructure. And that in itself will be a flood that will lift all the boats. The task before us is to double fixed investment that is currently at 15% for a sustained period. The reality is that even as we have progressed and we can celebrate, we are still a long way off the meeting our growth targets. South Africa's investment case is not in doubt at this point in time. And the reform agenda has proven to be consistent and measurable. But there is a gap between improved sentiment on one hand and greater capital deployment that translates to strong growth and jobs on the other. Now, the structural reform agenda is, I can say now, is irreversible and firmly embedded within the state. We are never going back to what we went through some 10 years ago. We are firmly committed to reforming various aspects of our economy, repositioning the South African economy so that it can generate growth on a consistent and ongoing basis. This is supported by strong and robust regulatory architecture that act as guardrails and ensure predictability for investors. We have anchored the reform agenda to ensure lasting and measurable change. We must now leverage its momentum to close the gaps together. And I wish to acknowledge the leadership and decisive contribution of business, as well as labor, to South Africa's economic recovery. Government, as we have often said, cannot do it alone. And we are pleased that we have partners who are prepared to put shoulder to wheel and work with us, as in business, as in labor, also community-based organizations who assist and support government in a variety of ways. And having legislated the consensus building through what we call NETLEC, we are assured of ensuring that there is proper collaboration on an ongoing basis. Now, the contribution that these social partners give has not been peripheral, but instrumental. When the 6th administration took office in 2019, we were determined to build a government that was open to collaboration, and finding shared solutions to common problems. We extended the hand of partnership to both the private sector and to labor. This was met by a willingness to engage, to take us at our word, and to support the reform agenda. And it was quite pleasing to sit down as we were looking at, for instance, the reforming our logistics sector, to sit down with the unions of our country and to sit down with business and work through what needs to be done. When we launched the first national investment drive with a target of 1.2 trillion, the private sector responded with billions of rands in investment pledges to support our growth and to also support job creation and industrial expansion. In 2020, we worked together. We worked together with business and labor and community-based organizations across society to respond to COVID-19 and to stabilize the economy and protect jobs. When we announced the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, the ERRP, business rallied alongside us to design initiatives to support businesses to recover and to grow. The private sector has supported our efforts to expand employment, and labor, who one would have thought that they are insiders only interested in their members, demonstrated that their interest goes beyond just their members. They supported the need for us to expand employment and to enhance skills development. And they have up to date worked with us and have enabled us to create job opportunities for young people in our country. And collaboration with the private sector and other social partners like labor helped shape the Just Energy Transition investment plan that has enabled us to mobilize climate finance while safeguarding jobs in affected industries. And today, through the government-business partnership that is currently in its third iteration, we are working together to improve performance of our logistics system, together with labor, to achieve long-term energy security, and to deal decisively also with crime and corruption. Now, this collaboration reflects a deep and maturing partnership and what I would call a uniquely South African approach to mobilizing the skills, the energy, and the talent that we have in abundance. We are determined to sustain the momentum we've built with a single-minded focus on achieving more rapid and inclusive growth. Now, that includes reforming our criminal justice system and tackling crime and corruption so that businesses can invest and operate without fear, but also so that our people can also live their lives without any fear. And we are deploying multidisciplinary teams to dismantle organized crime networks and also, importantly, to root out the police who are complicit in working with criminals, while strengthening, yes, we can applaud to them, while at the same time strengthening the independence and capability of agencies such as the Special Investigating Unit, which has performed phenomenally well. And with its asset forfeiture arm, they have brought back billions of rands which were stolen from government. And they have been like the shining star of our criminal justice system. And we're also strengthening and want to maintain the independence of the National Prosecuting Authority and the Hawks to investigate and prosecute corruption. Soon we'll be establishing a new criminal justice reform initiative modeled on the success of Operation Vulindlela in advancing economic reform. It will focus on organized crime, corruption, and the illicit economy, as well as illicit or illegal firearms. Now, by the middle of this year, we will also be finalizing, and Treasury has been informed to speed this process up, the new Procurement Act regulations that will enable us to root out corruption in public procurement. We have, ladies and gentlemen, come a long way, and may I say, in a short space of time. And of course, South Africans are in a hurry. They want everything to have been done yesterday. Now, governments often move at a glacial speed. However, in a short space of time, we have sought to achieve a lot. Our economy was stagnating, and our policy uncertainty was higher than ever before. Today, the green shoots of renewal are emerging. We have definitely, and this is not only government speak, it is people speak, it is analysts speak, it is business leaders speak, who are saying we have turned a corner. And now, having turned the corner, we must step up our journey. And confidence in our economy trajectory is rising. Our task now is to build on the progress that we have achieved, to create a dynamic and thriving economy and a more inclusive society. And what I can say tonight is that after this long day of conferencing, we will not stop with what we have embarked upon, the reform process. We will not stop until we have completed our job and consolidated it so that it is firmly irreversible. And we will not stop until every South African benefits from the fruits of economic progress that is unfolding now. And so we invite you all to continue walking this journey with us, not only as investors, but as long-term partners in South Africa's development. You are not merely investing in an economy, you are investing in a nation that is determined to grow, to transform, and to succeed. So I'd like to thank you all for coming to this conference, for making this conference so successful. It's the first time that we have hit this big number of 889, I correct myself, 900 billion. Now, this is against the backdrop of me having been influenced by a number of my colleagues who have said, no, President, we shouldn't, target for a higher target. We should be a bit modest, and let's not go over ourselves. Now, we now, at the first year of this long journey that we started, we have said we will have 2 trillion. Now, I make a mistake again, I say 3. But tonight, I'm changing the target. As president, I'm changing the target from 2 trillion to 3 trillion. That is the new target now. Now, I'm glad that my ministers are even applauding more. It means that they now have a new mandate. And the new mandate is that we must now go for 3 trillion and not 2 trillion anymore. So the target has changed. I'm often told that, oh no, the president, he doesn't really take decisions and all that. Now I have decided. It's so laughable. When we were going through our electricity challenges, the load shedding and all that, and I knew that we had to change direction. I knew that I had to get my ministers to focus on key areas, that the one minister must focus on petroleum, and we should take the energy and put it elsewhere, so that focusing on petroleum must mean that we scour the whole country, our shores, and find those resources that can drive our economy forward, and focus on mining and make mining a sunrise industry. I then said, I want another minister to focus on energy and electricity. So I decided overnight that I'm going to have another minister who's going to work on electricity and energy. And I pinpointed one and I said, I want an engineer, Ramokgopa K, to be the one who will focus on electricity and energy. You should have had my tribe in the ANC. They said, how can the president decide without discussing with us? And I said, I have decided. I am decisive. I have taken the decision. That is what is going to happen. And let's see what has now happened. We brought an end to load shedding. We had a minister who was focused on electricity and energy. And he led us to the end of load shedding. And now he's raised his gaze. He's raised his gaze above the horizon and has said, our transmission lines are not fit for driving the electricity that we're now going to have, because we're now going to generate more electricity with a number of other generators. We need to build 14,000 kilometers of new transmission lines. And I said to him, where are we going to get the money? And he said, President, the ticket is 450 billion. I said, yo. And he said, we will raise the money. And we are going to raise the money to deploy in our transmission lines. Now, tonight, the decision, therefore, which is now taken, is 3 trillion rand of investments that we must deploy. And that is open and shut. I should not hear people saying, oh, the president did not consult. No consultation on this one. So we go for 3 trillion. Now, as I end and conclude this wonderful conference, I would like to thank the Department of Trade and Industry, and particularly Minister Pakstau, for the leadership that he has demonstrated, and working with officials from the presidency. They have done a great deal of work. Dr. Alistair Reuters, the presidency, who's my investment advisor, has also put in a lot of work, and we applaud them and we thank them. I also thank the Industrial Development Corporation for the support they've given, Brand SA, Transnet, and all our other partners. This has been truly an exemplary conference. The feedback I have been getting from you in this room is that it has really been the best organized, with the best productive elements, targeted, outcomes-based, as well as an extremely high quality of speakers. But we also thank our sponsors, whose names were depicted or were announced by Minister Tau. Would like to thank you one and all for having made our burden a lot lighter in convening this conference. Without you as our sponsors, we would not have succeeded to hold such a successful conference. And as I end, I say, this has really truly been a successful conference. As we leave this conference, let us carry forward the momentum. This is just the start. We still have much further to go, and let us turn commitments into projects on the ground and translate plans into progress. South Africa is rising, and those who see our economy's potential and in the end invest now will be rewarded in years to come. And we look forward to walking this journey of growth and change with you until the next investment conference. Yes, we will have another investment conference when we now get close to touching that holy grail of 3 trillion rand of money that will be invested in our country. So thank you very much. We've almost gone a third of that 3 trillion rand. We still have a few years to go. Let's go get it. 3 trillion rand of investment. So thank you very much for all being here.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, what's been said has been said.
Go get it.
It's time to go and make 3 trillion rands.
Absolutely.
It is 8 minutes to 8. Upstairs on level 5, dinner has been prepared for you, ladies and gents. Please make your way over there.